Thank you for taking time for yourself here for our yin practice. Our practice today, we'll do a little bit of spine stuff, but it'll be really focused a little bit more on the hips and a little bit of hamstrings. A sequence that includes some lunges, as well as a shape called half pigeon, which is not always accessible to everybody. And so when we get there, you may know some options that feel good to you, and I'll give you a few alternatives that you can find if it depends on just how things feel and what you feel like doing today. Okay, so we're going to start our practice in child's pose, which is yet another shape that may or may not agree with your body. So if you know child's pose and you know you want to do child's pose, please feel free to find that shape. But do know if you want to lie on your back and hug your thighs or your knees in towards your body in Apasana. This is basically upside down child's pose, right? Just flipped it over. Whether you begin with the knees together or the knees wide, what's nice about child's pose is that one, there's this inward gaze that comes from it. You most likely close your eyes because it just feels good and makes sense, unless you don't want to, and you certainly don't have to. And this forward fold is a place that we can begin to quiet the mind. And if the knees are a little wider, we begin to tune into the hips from our very first shape. At any time, if any of your joints are unhappy about being here, you can make your way out of it to reset or find your way onto your back. And you find your way to settle into this shape. Here, begin to draw your awareness even more inward, allowing this shape to inspire that inward journey, tuning into the breath. Noticing as you breathe in what parts of the shape in your body gently expand. And as you breathe out, what softens. And you continue to breathe here, perhaps noticing a sound. Using the qualities of your breath. Maybe there's one that you connect to even more than the other, just allowing that to be your tether, your point of focus, and layering in mindfulness, a meditative aspect of your yin practice. As you breathe in, feel the whole body breathe in. As you exhale, feel the whole body exhale and soften. And feel where your palms meet the floor. If you're here in child's pose, begin to gently press into your palms. Make your way up to find table. Once you found table, here, anything that would feel good to you. Maybe it seems very natural to take a cow cat, nice and easy, especially with the back bend after the forward fold. You can also choose to find a little side to side wiggle with the hips and the shoulders. And once you found some of that movement that felt good after being still for a little bit, we're going to move into a yin back bend of Sphinx. If you're a fan of hero's pose, sitting between the heels, a block can come under your butt. This is also a yin back bend and an option. Okay. As you come down to take Sphinx, if you choose that, some space between the toes, shoulders over elbows, some space here between the forearms, an effort to create room for the chest to move with your breath. You can remain with the head up if you'd like. You could also begin to bow the head forward if that feels better. If that block is nearby, you might use a block to rest your head upon. As you breathe in, and feel your torso press gently against the mat. And as you breathe out, the torso softens, the low back lowers. Maybe allow your focus to hover there, feeling the movement that comes with the breath. At any time, you could shift your forearms further forward to reduce the arc in your low back if that's a preference. As you continue to breathe here, if you would like a little more sensation, it is an option. Keyword option to take the palms out to the corners of the mat and elevate up into seal. An option also, or an alternative to lifting up into seal, is to put one block under each forearm to have an elevated Sphinx. If either of these are too much for your low back, or there's something sharp or pinchy, we simply return back down to Sphinx. And if you had elevated on blocks, or come up into seal. Come back down to the forearms. Take a moment here just to reduce the arc in the spine, let everything settle and soften a little more easily versus too quickly. Take another breath here. Begin to take the elbows out, palms come in to stack, forehead comes down. If you feel better with the temple down, you can turn your head one way, handful of breaths, and take the gaze the other way as you're ready. Once again, feel where you expand, the whole back body just puffs up off the floor. And then really feel the melting of the exhale. Can you allow yourself just to sink into the mat? And breathe in. Empty that out. And then from here on your torso, that's where we'll have the option of either half frog, or if you prefer full frog, there's plenty of time for either option. Taking half frog, I give myself a little bit of room. So just maybe bring your right hand or your right forearm down to lift yourself up and bring this right leg alongside of you. So the hip and knee are relatively in line. And then we have the knee and the ankle. So these are right-ish angles. If you feel like your knee's pressing into the floor and the floor is kind of hard, having a blanket to support that little pressure there might be nice. So once you've taken this half frog, we'll come back to the chest on the floor. You can let the chin rest, the forehead rest, or turn the gaze in the direction of the knee or otherwise, wherever you might be. Once again, come back into how melty can you get with the exhale. And know there are plenty of rounds of exhales because it may take more time than it sometimes does to allow the edges to soften. Depending on what kind of day you've had or week or any number of things, you may notice that there's a sense of gripping, not even physical, it very well could be physical, but a holding on of sorts, whether it's to brace yourself with what's next or attempt to keep yourself from spinning off into orbit, or literally just holding things together. I don't know about you, but all of that holding can be super fatiguing. And take one more breath into the right side of your half frog if you took half frog. If you're in full frog and want to shift anything, please feel free. And then taking your time here to maybe give yourself a little room to take that right leg long. Take a moment here back in the middle with both legs long, checking in with how things feel. If you found that the blanket was a good idea, moving it over to your left side. And again, just giving yourself some room to draw that left leg up. Relatively speaking, there are right angles involved as much as our organic amazingness can be right angles. It's all relative. Yeah. Checking in. If the heel comes closer towards your right leg, it doesn't really influence anything for me or change anything, but maybe see if it does for you. It's a possibility. So once we have our left leg into half frog, coming back down to let your head rest anywhere that makes sense. It can be different than the first side if you'd like. If your neck does not want to turn one direction, I invite you not to make it happen. Instead, honor what it feels like doing. And although it's tiresome as this holding thing happens, right? Mentally, physically, for any reason we're gripping. I'm not saying you need to do a mic drop and just walk off, though it would be interesting to see what would happen. But perhaps using the practices you take, the time you have on the mat, other forms of self-care, to allow bits of time where you can loosen the grip and tune into that softness around the edges. And in this case, instead of you holding on or holding up, allowing the mat and the floor and the earth beneath you, allow that to hold you and to hold space for your breath and for your practice. Holding space for you just to be. Another smooth breath in here. And let that go. Giving yourself a little room to take that left leg long once more. If you'd found full frog, take all the time you need. If you're here on your belly with me, maybe a little rock of hips from side to side. You could even bend your knees and swoosh your shins from side to side if that feels good. And bringing legs back to stillness. So breathe in. And breathe out. And here, beginning to find the palms next to you, taking all the time you need to will yourself back up off the floor. And know that you actually don't have to. You could stay there the whole time if you'd like. It would be very therapeutic. But find your way back to table if you'd like to progress to other places. Here in table, once again, if there's movement that feels good to you, taking that movement. Maybe it's simple as letting that head sway from side to side and release. Movement of the spine. As we move into the next set of poses, you can transition into those poses from here in table, or if it would feel good to you, if it would work for your body, you can transition into the beginning of these shapes with down dog. Okay, so if you'd like to take down dog, you're welcome to do so, but you don't have to. Maybe you check it out just to see how it feels and decide. If you are here in down dog, it's a nice place to pedal the heels one at a time. Just give our backs of our legs, our calves a stretch. And then from down dog, lift your right leg up towards the ceiling. Begin to shift your weight forward and bring that right foot towards the front of the mat. You can always grab your leg and escort it forward. And then here, with hands to frame the front foot, more or less, little movement just to kind of settle into our low lunge. Maybe we shine forward and shift back. Grab a something, blanket, squishy thing, roll the mat over. As we shift forward, bring that left knee down. So here in our low lunge, aka lizard, you can spend time with the right shoulder resting upon the right knee. And this is going to create more of a grounding sensation. That's an option. You can also bring your right hand to the inside. You can stay on your palms. You can grab blocks. You can come up higher if you want to take a higher version of, we call this flying lizard for whatever reason. If you give it a name, you have to. I call it, oh, there's my hip. That's what I call it. If you want to come down a bit deeper, you can bring your forearms to a block or something else. So now that I've given you a litany of options, I invite you to listen to your body and tune into what depth suits you best. And ensure that the depth of your breath is still deep, hopefully still smooth. Expressive exhales are welcomed in this kind of shape. I visualize them like releasing a pressure valve. And take one more breath in your version of lizard. And we'll come back up to meet on palms or have the blocks handy. We're going to bring that right hand back outside the right foot. Blocks an option here. Take the gaze forward, shine your heart forward, lengthen from crown of head through tailbone. And then with your blocks of your hands, begin to gently walk your hips back, releasing the left hip, checking in with your right hamstring. The knee does not have to be perfectly straight. Heart towards toes, linger, or a little softening over your right leg as your counter. Big full breath. If you had the bow over your right leg, we'll come back up to just a bit of a longer spine. You can even take the blocks a little higher if you want. Before we move from here, just something to explore. And if this is too much, you don't have to do it, all right? So your toes are probably pointing more or less towards the ceiling, okay? So explore turning your toes over to like 1 or 2 o'clock and tune into the sensation that shows up in a different part of the back of your leg. Take a couple breaths there. If it's sharp or unpleasant, maybe it's not 2 o'clock, maybe it's 1 o'clock, or maybe it's like halfway between 12 and 1. Come back to 12, take a moment, and then turn over towards 11 or 10, a little bit inward rotation. Check that out, see how that feels. And then bring that back to noon, the top of the clock. Beautiful. Walk ourselves forward. And so from here, giving ourselves room, whether you choose to walk your foot all the way across to take a shape called half pigeon. So we bring the shin down. Your right heel can be anywhere between your hip crease and the wrist. Please note that my heel is not anywhere near my left wrist. If your right knee or anything else is unhappy about being here, especially if you want to come down a bit deeper, if this is just not working out for you, a couple options. Let me turn. One of the things you could do is deer legs. So from half pigeon, you'd simply bring this left leg up. So we have two bent knees. This might be a nice way to take this shape. Another way would be to be supine. So you'll take that right ankle over the left knee, lie on your back. You can gather that left leg in. Okay. So whether you're in half pigeon or your version of a hip influencing shape, allowing the sensation to be just enough to know that something's going on, but not so much that your breath is hindered. Smooth, full breath here. Maybe visualize, feel every exhale. It's this physical embodiment of letting go. Or maybe just a release, a little unfurling. Allowing the space and time to be for you to be held, for you to have nothing that you truly need to do other than breathe. And as you continue to breathe into this shape, maybe it's the whisper of your breath that keeps your attention. Invite a breath in, empty that out. If you're supine, you can spend a bit more time if you'd like, or release your legs and take hammock, feet wide, knees drift from side to side. If you had come forward in any other shape, like a forward fold over your front leg or otherwise, taking your time to make your way back up to a tall spine. Spending the next 3 or 4 breaths taking any counter shape or movement that feels good to you. Then once you found those 3 or 4 breaths, making your way back to table or down dog. Once you found table or down dog, there can be a little more pedaling, a little more wiggling if that feels good. If you're in down dog, or maybe even in table, you'll lift the left leg up as you shift the weight forward, drawing that left leg towards the top edge of the mat. Once again, here, inviting a little shine forward and a little shift back. And you come back up. You could always take that movement a little bit more if you'd like, but we'll eventually find that right knee down. And finding a similar shape. It does not have to be exactly the same because we are asymmetrical. Relatively speaking, if hands were to the inside, revisit hands to the inside. You could always put the blocks under the hands or come a bit taller and come a bit deeper if you so choose. Big full breath here. Maybe revisiting the expressive exhales. Visualizing that release of tension. Breathe in and out. If you had found your way down to a different depth, come back to meet on your hands and or blocks. We'll bring that left foot in a bit, left hand to the outside. Once again, we can bring the floor closer, lengthen through crown of head, full breath in here, and shift the weight back. Left knee does not have to be perfectly straight. Toes to face, heart towards toes as you linger. Perhaps take a little bow over that left leg. Once again, our sides are different. Just let this be whatever it needs to be. If you had folded over your left leg with the inhale, lengthen through crown of head once more. Exploring that little turn. So we'll turn external rotation to start. So we'll go over to, this one works very differently. Well then, so maybe it's 11. I hope I'm not the only one. I have no idea, but that's okay. So maybe it's past 11, but it might not be. And breathe into the back of the leg and the new sensation here. And then ooch the toes back. Might just be like a 1/4 inch. And then internal rotation. Again, that could be somewhere between noon and 1, or 1, maybe 2, maybe not. And then bringing it back up to noon. Beautiful. Walking yourself back up nice and easy. Then here, taking that moment to either explore half pigeon, or if you know that you just have a preference on what shape you want to spend time in, adjusting, setting up the body accordingly. We're super into deer legs, so we'll do that again. And do know that if you're taking other practices, other places. And if a shape is like, say, half pigeon, which is a good example because that doesn't work for everybody, literally everybody. And so if your body is not into half pigeon on a given day, something like deer legs or supine pigeon or another hip influencing shape may be the really best the place for you to be able to spend time, create similar sensation, not hurt yourself, that's important, and be able to breathe, most important. So our ability to breathe in these sort of odd, uncomfortable situations, to be frank, right? And helps us learn how to breathe when we're in other odd, uncomfortable situations, perhaps off the mat. If you choose to add depth or not, your call. Smooth, full breath. Noticing where your mind may or may not be. Gentle awareness. Your breath is the guide back to the present moment. Breathe in. Breathe out. If you're supine, spend time or transition to hammock. If you had folded over into a different shape like resting half pigeon, taking your time to make your way back up. And here, wherever you are, maybe it's a shoulder roll, maybe it's getting yourself out of this shape entirely. 3 or so breaths to invite the counter, the forward fold, anything else that suits you, including taking your time to meet back in table or down dog. And those two shapes are also lovely places to take some dynamic counter movement. Little pedal, little wiggle. And as you're ready, coming back through to find your seat. We'll be in our seat ever so briefly as we find our way. As we come down to your back, we're going to take a supine twist. If you want to have something on your left side, maybe it's a bolster or a bolster plus a little something or 2 blocks in a blanket, just having that available. And that can create a more supported twist. Now, if you would prefer for the twist to be a little more intense, a little more yinish, as long as it's not sharp or pinchy, you don't have to use props. Okay. So once you have things, and maybe just in case, and then you can always move them out of the way, right? All right. Finding your way down onto your back. Once you've arrived on your back, here drawing that right knee in towards your body, holding the thigh or the shin, giving your right knee a squeeze. Option here to hold the back of your right thigh. Bring your sole of your right foot to the ceiling, toes are flexed. Then take a moment. This is upside down lunge. So again, if you ever had a challenge with joints, or say you were doing this before you went to bed, you could do an upside down lunge. All right, we'll soften the grip on that right leg. Maybe scoot your hips over to the right a little bit, and then draw the right leg over to the left, whether it's props or not. Letting the right leg hover or linger. If your neck would appreciate it, you could take the gaze away. So you could take your gaze to the right as your leg goes to the left. Yeah. If it's not a good idea, you certainly don't have to do that. Let your neck be the guide. Invite a breath in and out. Begin to draw your right leg back to center. If your hips are off a bit, bring them back even. Give your right leg another squeeze. And let your right leg come long. Take a moment to tune in to one leg versus the other. And then draw that. Oh, if you were using props, shift those first. That'll be easier. Pardon me. There we go. Okay. So bring that left leg in, whether you hold the thigh or the shin to start your call. Just drawing that leg into the torso. And then you can put your hands in between your thigh and your calf, and then just draw the knee in, even into your armpit a bit more as you bring that sole of left foot towards the ceiling. This could be half happy baby, or I feel sort of, it's just very much like a upside down low lunge. Similar sensation. Taking gravity out of the equation, which is pretty awesome. Gently releasing that. Maybe the hips scoot over to the left a little bit as you draw the left leg over to the right, propping or no propping. As you settle into the second side of the shape. And feeling the places in your body, the places in this shape that shift and move with the ebb and flow of your breath. Invite a breath in and allow that to flow out. Mindfully migrating your way back to the middle. And center the hips. Maybe give your left leg one more squeeze. And invite the left leg long. And take a moment with two nice long legs. Feel the expansion, spaciousness created by your inhale. The ease, the softening of your exhale. As we take our time to come back up to a seat again, just for a moment to set up some support for a reclined supported shape. And so I'm going to offer you one of two options. If you build this little bolster behind you, either with said bolster, really? Okay, good. Or two blocks and a blanket. So you could have, or you can add a little more. Say my bolster's kind of skinny, so just add a little extra. Okay. So as you set this bolster shape up, you could also just do this perfectly supine if you'd rather just lie back, right? I'm going to give you one of two things to think about in your shape. The first one being reclined supported butterfly, or reclined butterfly sans support. Maybe you just kind of explore what it would be like to come onto your back with support. And if it feels like a good idea, fabulous. If bringing your legs into a butterfly, soles of feet come together, knees, in fact, butterfly open. If this is relatively comfortable or something that you appreciate, let's say, you could spend time here. If it's a little bit much, which it very well may be, take your left leg long. Feel the right leg just kind of melt a little bit because no more tug of war between your inner hamstrings. Is the right leg butterflies, well, half butterfly or resting tree. If you take resting tree, I'll let you know when we'll swap the sides. The gaze be soft or closed. If you have an eye pillow that you like to use, or a scarf or a washcloth, you can cover your eyes. And here, feel where your back body is supported by the foundation beneath you. If you have a bolster or props in place, the opening of the heart space, the heaviness of the shoulders. And smooth, full breath. And take one more breath. If you had one half of a resting tree, let that go. You can either draw the knee up to the ceiling and or just extend the right leg long. That leg be heavy. If you're in reclined butterfly, supported or unsupported, no, this is sort of a halfway place. And you could take your legs long at any time from here forward. If you had resting tree, left knee will come up and open. And that sole of your foot can be anywhere along the length of your leg. It might be up towards the thigh, it might be down towards the calf. That's all good. Inviting your body to settle back in this second shape, or choosing to shift to a slightly different shape if you were in reclined butterfly. In any and all cases, breathe in and breathe out. A spacious inhale, the ease, the release of the exhale. Breathe in and breathe out. If you were in resting tree, either knee up and or simply left leg long. If you're in reclined butterfly, supported or unsupported, you could take your legs long or choose to linger as your last shape. If you're quite comfortable and content with support under your back, you can leave that in place. If you would prefer to move that support beneath your knees or just off to the side entirely, that is also an option. Making any last little adjustments. Settle into your last shape of your practice. A place where the body can release and relax back into the mat. Inviting that smooth, even breath to wash over you. As you sink back into your Shavasana. Breathe in. Breathe out. Know that you could linger exactly as you are and not worry about one more thing other than curling up and finding a place of rest. Or you can begin to invite gentle movement back to your body, wiggling and turning. If it would be comfortable, an inhale can reach arms towards the ceiling or up overhead. And taking your time to draw your knees back in towards your body, giving yourself a squeeze. And again, if it's comfortable, finding your way over, perhaps to your left side. Resting your head and your arm, and you linger. And listen to your breath. With soft or closed eyes, gently make your way back up to find your seat. And here, bring palms together. Thumbs rest upon heart center. A lift of the sternum, heavy shoulders. And bow your chin to your chest, honoring the source of gratitude, compassion, loving kindness. Thanking yourself for making the time. Thanking your breath for guiding the way. And thanking your body for being so patient and resilient. And chin lifts, heart lifts, shoulders soft. Thumbs come to third eye point, your seat of intuition. I thank you for sharing your time, your energy, and your beautiful practice with me. Until our paths cross again, be well and namaste.